actually close your screens on your Chromebooks, and we're going to discuss a little bit about the characteristics that we learned on Thursday. Tonight, your homework is to do the second set of vocabulary words, the second set of slides. And we're going to talk a little bit about those tomorrow. But before we do that and work on those words, I want us to review some of the terms that we have been learning by looking at the article that we annotated. Okay, so that's our goal today. We're trying to be able to identify the characteristics and structure of informational text. That's our learning goal. We want to be able to find those things no matter what we're reading, whether we're reading an encyclopedia, if we're reading a textbook in our science class, if we're reading an informative article. We're going to focus a lot more on informative articles in this particular class, but you will be reading information text in a variety of ways. I'm still waiting for a few people to close their screens. All the way down. Thanks. Awesome. Great. Okay. So we're learning the different characteristics. What makes informational text writing? When we're evaluating it, what kinds of things are we going to be looking for? So one of the things that we were looking for when we were talking about this is the central idea, main idea. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of understanding author's purpose. If I were writing, and you guys already just practiced paragraphs, and some of you had argumentation and evidence, others had main idea and support, others had compare and contrast. What was the purpose that you were supposed to be writing with? Was it to persuade, inform, or entertain? What approach did you and your partner take? Did you write something that was informative? Did you write something just fun for entertainment value? Or did you have to write because you had argumentation and evidence or problem and solution, something with persuasion? So author's purpose goes to the why. Why are you writing it outside of the fact that Mrs. Kent's told me to? Right? What's the reason for writing? So tell your partner, what is the importance of author's purpose when we're looking at what we're reading? How does that tell us something about the writing? Share with your partners.
What made it right?
3, 2, 1. How does knowing the author's purpose help us to understand what we're reading possibly better? Or how is the author's purpose helpful to the reader to know? Maddie.
Because it helps you get a feel of what it is. If it was informative but you thought it was entertaining, then you kind of missed the point of it.
Okay, if you're just looking at it as entertainment, but you're supposed to be learning or something informing you, that would be different. Somebody want to add on to that? Wyatt?
For example, in Beatles and Angels, like he said, this isn't about me, this is about you guys, and I'm trying to tell you that you guys can do this too and stuff like that. And if people didn't know that, then they missed it.
So if you don't understand the purpose, you could miss the point. I really like that. That's great. Could you miss the point? What's the point of their writing? Is partly why they wrote it, right? Are they writing to inform us? Are they writing to persuade us? If we know that, we might read it and look for key things differently. So author's purpose is really important. What's going to happen here is I want us to think about author's purpose in the article that we read last night. Anita's going to pass out a little 3x5 card to you guys. And on this card, what I want is for you to start with, on your card, you're going to start with the author, the title. Then you're going to move on to the author. And the next thing I want you to think about is the author's purpose. Now, most of us read an informative article because we were on News ELA. So if it were information, the purpose is pretty simple. It is what? To inform. And that's all you therefore need to write on your card. So for an article, let's remember our punctuation. With the title of a short article, do we underline or put it in quotation marks? Quotation marks. Excellent. You may open your screen. You're going to write your title. You're going to write the author. Remember that with News ELA, if the author is not there, you can find it by going to the max amount on News ELA. Go to the max reading level, and that will tell you the author and the original source. So you can see the example here. Title, author, and then author's purpose. Please raise your hand if you need help.
So just write the answer.
Write the actual title of the article that you read last night. Yes, because it's a title, right? Put it in quotation marks. And always remember, even if they don't capitalize it, should we? All the words? Yes, except for articles like of, and to. So write the title and the author. Good job, you guys. Looks like most of us are done. Again, once you have the author, the title and the author, then move down and look at the author's purpose. What's the author's purpose? And then is it to inform? Maybe somebody read an article that was more persuasive. Maybe it was to persuade. So if that's the author's purpose, then write persuade. If it was simply to entertain, just a funny article, etc., then go ahead and put entertain. If you think that you want to be a little bit more descriptive, it's not just to inform, but maybe to describe, you could write to describe.
So it's just one word.
One word, that's all we need. Because we're breaking down the characteristics very specifically. And we're going to talk about what the article is about when we look at something else. We're just doing author's purpose right now. Title, author, purpose. All right. We're going to move next to one of the terms that was on your vocabulary list that you've had before. It's not new. You learned it last year if you were here. And that is scope. Scope refers to the work's focus. And you guys looked at this. A broad scope covers many ideas. And a narrow scope covers just a limited or a narrow idea. A textbook, would that cover many ideas? Yes. So it would be broad. An encyclopedia, does it cover a lot of different topics and ideas?
No.
An encyclopedia? So it would be broad. But a limited scope is going to focus very specifically on one or two topics. And one of the things that we want you to do is, as we're looking at scope this year, is to always list that topic along with it, okay? So if you say it's a limited topic, what's it focused on? Is it focused on, like somebody read an article about whales? So it's a limited topic about whales. We're going to talk about the big picture idea, what about whales it was talking about when we get to the central idea. But the scope, it's more simplistic. I just want you to write scope, and I'm assuming that most of us are going to be in a limited because we're reading news articles. And what was the topic? So this one, when we did this one together, the Syrian school children was the topic of that article we read together. Or we read that article about cyberbullying. Cyberbullying was the topic. It's not a main idea. It's just the topic. It's the subject of what the article was about. So in one or two words, put scope, label it as limited, and then what was the topic. We're going to write the topic. What was it about? One word or two. What I've seen a lot about Tom Brady or Deflate Gate. You get to pick one of those two, but you wouldn't want more than one or two or three words, the most, right? I've seen some about soccer concussions. I've seen some soccer and concussions. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of different topics, a lot of different articles. What was your article about? And what can you write on your card? So just to kind of, as people are finishing up, I'd love to hear some of the topics. So Sienna, what was the focus or the scope of your work limited to?
Mine was limited, and it was a lung disease in India that could.
Well, one or two words. So it was about a lung disease. All right. Maxon, what was your limited focus or your topic? One or two words. Describe what your article was about in 1 to 2 words. What was the topic?
Japan's refugees.
Japan refugees. All right. Sam, R.
Rocks, desert.
More rocks. It's about rocks in the desert.
Yeah.
Okay. Rocks. Excellent. All right. Jackie, what was your article about?
South African owls.
South African owls. Good. These are topics. Sometimes people get confused and they think the article was about South African owls and they call that their main idea. But the idea has to be more specific. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So let's go and look again at central idea, because it's so important to understand what a strong central or main idea is and how to find it. Before I tell you an important part of it, I want you to think about how you usually do it. You've been working on main idea probably since 3rd and 4th grade, right? What's the main idea of the story? Tell me if I said, and I did for this assignment, how do you find the main idea? Tell your partner, in the past, how have you found the main idea of the article? Go ahead and share. 3, 2, 1. Today I've been hearing all different kinds of things as I've been kind of listening in. I've heard, I look at the title and the subheadings to help me get an idea of the main idea. It's a good strategy to get started. Some people say, I look at the first few sentences, and that is the main idea. Some people say, I just kind of figure it out, and that is a different strategy. We're going to teach you a new strategy because you are now reading at a higher level. Okay, when you were in maybe a lower grade, you might have been given an article, and the first 2 sentences were the main idea, right? But I want to tell you now, the types of articles and things you'll be reading are at a higher level. And unless it's an essay with a thesis, the main idea is not always going to be the first few sentences. Let's think back to the cyberbullying article. The first few sentences were about the fact that cyberbullying is a problem, right? It's a bad problem. Was the whole article about a problem?
No.
The whole article included both the problem and everyone the
Solution.
The problem and solutions to cyberbullying. If you only said the main idea is that cyberbullying is a problem, you missed half the article, right? And that's an easy thing to do because often titles and those first few sentences are more like hooks. They're more grabbing the reader's attention, not really what the whole idea is about. In fact, what I often see is people pick the main idea, but their main idea is usually just one of the many ideas in the article instead of a big overarching idea. See, the main idea is the topic plus the author's point about it. The author said cyberbullying was the topic, so then I take it one step further. What did the author have to say about cyberbullying? That it's a problem and there are solutions. So I want you to look back at your main idea statement. Is it just the first sentence or 2? Is it the title? Is it the last sentence or 2? And ask yourself this question. Is it really the overall point of the article? Is it in a complete sentence, because it can't just be the article was about cyberbullying. Nope, it was more than that, right? It can't just be the article was about Syrian school children. That's the topic, not the main idea. So look back to your main ideas. And I want you to edit your main idea. And I want, if it's too long, make it a bigger statement. Be more general. If it's not long enough and you just put the topic, like Syrian school children, you need to add more. You do not, however, anymore need to put the words, the main idea is. You just start with the topic. So here's my topic, Syrian school children. What was that article about? Syrian school children have a lack of educational opportunities because of the civil war. I want you to adjust your central idea to make sure that it covers your entire article. Go back and check. We have about 4 minutes. So please go back and check your central idea. And we're going to be coming around and looking at them. And I might ask you, is that really what the whole article was about? So central idea is what we're working on right now. If you need to flip the card over to the back, that's fine. You should have a note about the central idea. Do you have a note about the central idea? So clarify that. Is that what the whole article is about or not? And then you can just write it down on your card. Yes? Well, what about move over to global class? Well, what about improvements to wearing gloves? What about sapphire could be the next trend? So this first section is talking about one thing, but the second sections are talking about other things. Do you see why if we just look at one sentence, that's too narrow? Yeah. So let's make a sticky note. All of them. So what was the whole article about? Perfect. See how that's a big general statement, and all those other things could fit. Buying these gloves, buying that, doing this. So that's what you want to write down. Yes, excellent. Yeah. Did you possibly annotate it in a different?
And then I reloaded it.
Oh, you refreshed it and it worked? Let's go with this way. Did you go find the author's name? Sometimes when you find the author's name, you have to
Yeah, I did that.
Sure. And then you need to sometimes you have to go back to it. They're there. Did you see them in your library? They're there. So let's put one more time. And then let's
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So I looked it up, on New Zealand,
Okay.
but when I tried to
Was that the one?
some of the same stuff.
Okay.
Especially when I put it on the library and get things, so much. This is actually like on New Zealand.
It is.
Yeah. When I looked it up. So I went to
It's all about you. So you're okay. Change your lifestyle. Always just go through Digo to find it now. Go to your library and Digo. And now we'll pull it up. Everyone have their essential idea written down?
Yes.
Clearly written their essential idea. Okay. Bell is going to ring in just a minute. Before it does, okay, one of the things that I would like us to do, and we probably won't have time today, is to talk about how the author communicates that idea. And that's where we're going to be putting our note cards on the board tomorrow. So if you lose your note card between now and tomorrow, guess what?
You get a 0.
No, you have to do it again. I don't want you to do it again. So tomorrow, we're going to go one step further, and we're going to say, how did the author convey their ideas? In a very neutral tone or in a more subjective way with emotion in it. And so we'll be looking at that. So keep those cards. We'll be looking for those things tomorrow.